Hello, my name is Andy and I am the village idiot, and I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. For the very first time on the channel, welcome to Lancashire. I'm stood on the border between two districts of this county. To my left is the district of Hyndburn and to my right is the borough of Burnley. And today we're looking at the only civil parish in Hyndburn, and that is Altham. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Altham is a village and civil parish in the borough of Hyndburn in Lancashire. It's the only parish in the borough. The remainder is an unparished area. The village is 4.3 miles west of Burnley, 2.9 miles north of Accrington and 2 miles northeast of Clayton-le-Moors, and is on the A678 Blackburn to Burnley Road. The village is located in the northeast corner of the parish on the River Calder, and in the southwest is Altham West, a suburb of Accrington. The census of 2001 recorded a population for the parish of 897, which increased to 1,137 by 2011. However, the village's 2011 population was only 343, the remainder living in either Altham West or in some isolated buildings elsewhere within the boundaries. Altham village may be small, but there's plenty to talk about. A lot of it is covered by industrial estates. Altham Industrial Estate is within the village, and then there's Moorfield Industrial Estate in the southwest. Altham was once a township in the ancient parish of Whalley. This became a civil parish in 1866. From 1894 to 1974, the parish was in the Burnley Rural District. The Ham-class minesweeper HMS Altham was named after the village, and Timothy Jolly, a nonconformist minister, was born in the village circa 1659. It's always been a village associated with industry, even from the early days of its existence, with agriculture. Now, one thing you might notice about Altham if you come here is it's not much village, but quite a lot industrial estate. Let's go and have a look at that. Industry in this part of Lancashire looks different now, but Altham has been associated with a few things over time. Coal mining is one, but in 1887, bricks started to be produced at Winnie Hill. These were known as Noris, and there's a backstory to that. Due to the type of iron-hard engineering brick that was produced here, the word iron was written on the chimney of the brickworks. However, the letters of the word iron were accidentally placed backwards in the brick moulds, which of course spelt Nori, and thus Nori Bricks were born. Nori bricks played an important part in the building industry all around the world. Blackpool Tower's foundation stone was a Nori brick. 5 million Nori bricks in all make up that building. Another major build where Nori bricks were used was the Empire State Building in New York City. Nearer to home, a series of power stations used them too, like Battersea Power Station in London. The clay that was used to make the bricks was quarried at Winnie Hill too, and up until the late 60s there were quarries on both sides of Winnie Hill Road, feeding the brickworks. Now, this industrial estate is quite big. It's a massive estate covering quite a lot of land to the south of the main road. So I'm not going to be walking around all of it. It would be pointless, because basically all I'm doing by doing that would be showing you different industrial units, which is, boring really. There are other things to see. Before we have a look at what Altham has in terms of amenities, let's go for some demographic information. This is a parish whose population density stands at 212.6 per square kilometre. There's a large Asian community in Altham West, which means ethnically only 92.5% of the parish identify as white British. A massive 61.4% of the residents here are of working age. And as for average house prices, today I have two. One for Altham Village, £186,000, and one for Altham West, a little lower, at £150,000. Since September 2016, the village has been served by only one bus route, the 152, which connects the village to Burnley, Blackburn and Preston. Altham has one pub in the main village, and that would be the Walton Arms. However, this is not the only pub in the parish, as we'll see later. The Walton Arms is a food-orientated pub, and the bar area has the feel of a village inn. The guest beer is often from Bowland Brewery. Altham has an Anglican church dedicated to St James and situated on Burnley Road. The current building, which is Grade 2 listed, was built in the 16th century. However, a church has existed in the village since 1140. At first it was dedicated to St Mary. Until 1870 it was the parish church to Accrington. The tower was added and the chancel was rebuilt in 1859, and in 1881 a chapel was rebuilt by Paley and Austin. The church is constructed in sandstone with a stone slate roof. It's mainly in the perpendicular style. It consists of a nave with a clerestory, aisles, a south porch, a chancel and a west tower. The tower has 3 stages and a battlemented parapet. In the porch, part of a Norman font has been incorporated in a side bench. As well as these few amenities, the village does have St James's C of E Primary School as well, which, after the landmark section, we drive past on the way to Altham West. The nearest secondary schools are in Accrington. Now, we will see in a few moments a large memorial to all those killed in the Moorfield Colliery disaster. The church has one too, commemorating the 100th anniversary. One thing I noticed about some of the gravestones here would be how big some of them are. We often see obelisks in cemeteries, but here they're numbered so many more than usual. This was interesting. A wooden framed clock was presented to the village by Cecilia Metcalfe on her 100th birthday. It was taken down from its position on top of this bus stop while it was being painted, but it was never returned. We're in Lancashire, expect to see lots of mills around here. Dating from 1816, this originated as a corn mill by the River Calder. It's in sandstone with a stone slate roof and has an L-shaped plan. Altham Corn Mill was related to the famous Peel family. Both the mill and the Peels played an important part in Altham's 18th to 20th century industrial development. Speaking of the River Calder, here it is. It collects a couple of brooks as it runs through Altham. These are Dean Brook and Shorten Brook, the latter as it flows past St James's Church. This should not be confused with the River Calder that we're used to seeing in Yorkshire. This is another river with the same name that flows into the River Ribble. Crossed here by Burnley Road, the river turns northwest and the meanders become more pronounced as it flows towards Hyndburn wastewater treatment works near Great Harwood. Now let's go for a short drive into Altham West along the A678. This passes the school, and on the way we get to see the site of the former Moorfield Colliery. Coal mining was the major industry in Altham in the 19th and early 20th centuries. After the Leeds and Liverpool Canal was opened in the 1810s, the local pits were sunk near it for transportation. They supplied coal to the industries of East Lancashire, and later in the century, Altham Colliery, later renamed Moorfield Colliery, was opened, and it was here between Altham Village and Altham West. The colliery closed in 1949, but Altham Cokeworks continued here until the late 1960s and early 1970s. After it was decommissioned, it became what is now Moorfield Industrial Estate. There are a couple of memorials here, including this one for the explosion at Moorfield Colliery in 1883, which resulted in the deaths of 68 people. One thing that amazes me about this is how young some of these lads were. Look at James Atherton here, 10 years old, and he's not the only one. On the other side, there's Aaron Riding as well. Both guys 10 years of age. Back in the car, we're heading into Altham West now, through the unparished area of Accrington. Okay, now we're in the area of Altham West, which is right on the border with the unparished area of Accrington. Let's see what we can find around here. So now we're in Altham West, which, as you can tell, is a suburb of Accrington. Here we are just a mile or two away from the town centre. Seeing as this is the only time we'll ever be in Hyndburn on the channel, here's some information about it. It's classified as a district with borough status. In March 2010, Hyndburn was voted the 10th best council in the Times Best Public Sector Places to Work. The borough also made it to the Times Best Companies Guide. Hyndburn Borough Council has a total of 35 councillors, 2 of which are elected by the ward of Altham. As of 2020, the ward is represented by 2 Labour Party councillors. Altham has a parish council. Its meetings are usually in Altham Village. However, there are facilities here which have in the past made it a more convenient location for the residents of Altham West. Those facilities come in the form of a football ground which stands close to Altham West's pub, the Crown Inn. And here is the Crown. This is a fantastic traditional pub located on the outskirts of Accrington town centre, right next to the home of Accrington Stanley. Now, I'm actually quite excited about this because my regular viewers know that I'm a bit of a football fan. Welcome to Accrington Stanley Football Club and their home ground, which over the years has been known as a few things, including the Crown Ground, named for the nearby pub. The current club was formed in 1968, 2 years after the collapse of the original Accrington Stanley. The town's original club, simply named Accrington, were founder members of the Football League in 1888. The club can argue they are one of the most famous in the world. Accrington came to national prominence in 1989 thanks to an advert which you might well know of. It was due to the Milk Marketing Board's popular television advert that featured the slogan, "Accrington Stanley, who are they?" Well, now you know who they are. Okay, without a doubt, I will have some new people who are watching me for the very first time with this video, so I'm going to explain to you the next part of this video. In every episode, I do something called a picture bit, which is basically a collection of stills from the internet for things that I haven't walked to or covered in any other way, and that's coming right now for the parish of Altham. and with that, that is the parish of Altham, the only one in the borough of Hyndburn in Lancashire. Time for me to move on now to Burnley, and there are 8 parishes there to discover all sorts of things about. I know nothing about Lancashire, or at least I didn't before I came here. I've learned some things about Altham. Let's see what Burnley's got in store for me. I've been Andy, and I've been the Village Idiot, and this has been the parish of Altham in Lancashire, and I'm out.